Hello, here's another tutorial. If you happen to get the booklet that says 8 week 2 day 1 side 1, that's the one I'm going through right now. So of course you can put the date, but that's optional. If you are going to turn these in, it probably would be good if you put your name on. So I'm going to model doing that here. Okay. What I like about this series is they have nice little sayings or something for inspiration, so I'll try to remember to read those to you. It says, music may achieve the highest of all missions. She may be a bond between nations, races, and states who are strangers to one another in many ways. She may unite what is disunited and bring peace to what is hostile. At the beginning of every staff is a symbol that helps us identify musical notes and pitches. And my apologies about some of these being crossed out. I'm hoping to do an overhaul on these this summer. This symbol is called a clef. One of the most common clefs is the treble clef, also known as the G clef. A treble clef or G clef looks like this on the staff. So there it is. And many of you remember the song about treble clef and being in love and all that. And it talks about the high notes, right? And it's what recorder is written on, and most of our vocal music, guitar, most of our band instruments. Okay, so it's nothing unfamiliar. A staff, as you'll recall, is 5 lines and 4 spaces. You can have extensions of the staff called ledger lines. Because it's treble clef, we can remember that the lines are E, G, B, D, and F, and the spaces spell face. And you'll remember from another old song with all the mnemonics, ways to remember E, G, B, D, F. You know, empty garbage before dad flips is obviously my favorite, but the one with the fewest letters, each girl and boy is fine, right? It's more inclusive that way. Okay, then it says practice drawing a treble clef below. And they give you an example. And of course, if you're learning how to draw or write these for the first time, it's nothing wrong with tracing them. I mean, I think that'd be a good idea. In fact, I'll go ahead and trace the top one. You know, the dot at the end is not so necessary, nor is the thicker lines. That's just fancy printing. Okay, you're not needing to do that, as you'll see below here. Okay. Step 1, it says draw a line from slightly above the staff to slightly below with a curve at the bottom. It looks like a J. Okay, so there it is, a J without the fancy top or hat part if you tend to go that way like I often do. And so then it says you draw. I already traced the one at the top, but you can do it down there. Okay. Step 2, start at the top of the line of the J line and make a D down to the 4th line. Okay, so I got my J again. I made a D that sits on the 4th line. Now, strangely enough, oops, let's make that, you can see that there. Okay, of course I can also trace it up here, right? But my D sits on the 4th line, which ironically is D. Actually, it's not ironic, it just works that way. Okay. All right, step 3. It says to continue the other side and curve the line all the way to the bottom line. It looks like a C. Okay, so if I start it over again, where's my J? There's my D. Okay, and they're saying make a C. I will say that there's no it's not as nifty as D sitting on D line, okay, but you made a C. Actually, I think of this as starting to make a 6, and you'll see why in a second, okay? Step 4, continue the curve to the 3rd line. Like so. To the 3rd line, which is B, as you might remember. Step 5, continue to wrap the line until it has crossed through the 2nd line. So you bring it around again. It has to cross the 2nd line. Remember, we count from the bottom 1, 2, E, G, right? Okay, so there's your treble clef. Okay, or G clef. It marks G as the 2nd line. Okay. All right, so another There we go. I was just waiting for it to focus for you. Giving to others, selflessly and anonymously, radiating light throughout the world and illuminating your own darkness, your virtue becomes a sanctuary for yourself and all beings. Okay? It is important to place the treble clef exactly as it is seen below. Following the examples shown, draw 5 treble clefs on each staff. Okay? Now earlier I was saying, I think of the J, I think of the D, I think the rest is a 6. And that's why. Right there, it makes a 6. So there we go. You can hear my dog in one of the other rooms with a big window overlooking the street. Somebody must be walking by, or maybe walking a dog. Anyway, so there's another activity here. Through music, we wander where we will in time and find friends in every century. Another common clef is the bass clef. We do have some instruments at Marion that play from bass clef, and we also have some male voices that could sing. I obviously sing in bass clef, but even some students whose voices have dropped who could. Another common clef is the bass clef, known as the F clef. The bass clef is drawn on a staff. Drawn on a staff looks like that. So again, your 5 lines, 4 spaces. How do we draw one? We draw what looks like a large quotation mark, starting with a dot on the 4th line, touch the top line, and just go down to the 2nd line. Some people think of this as a C. I think of it as half a heart. But the dot is important. You do want to kind of make it on the 4th line. And the 4th line in bass clef actually is F, which is why it is called the F clef. It marks F. And with F clef, bass clef, if you remember the other song, the cool bass clef. But your lines are G, B, D, F, A. Girls and boys do fine always. Great big dogs fight aardvarks. Great big dogs fight animals. Yeah, any of those. A, C, E, G instead of face. A, C, E, G are the spaces. Okay? So that takes care of that part. Do a bit on time. Right on the back of this first activity is learn about the keyboard. Okay. So with learn about the keyboard, it is helpful for musicians, I'm reading at the top, to know the piano keyboard. It helps you see how notes relate to each other. Each white key on the keyboard is named with a letter of the musical alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. Write the name of each white key on the blank keys below. So, they gave you a B here, and they gave you F through B. We're, of course, having to remember that the musical alphabet only has the 7 letters. It no longer has H. It did centuries ago. And of course the pattern goes up and down. So really all they're wanting you to do is just to spell down. Before F is E, before E is D, before D is C, they gave us B, and so forth. I think going backwards is harder, so this is a good practice. E, D, and C, okay? And then going up, we can have C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Okay. When you got 2 black keys, D is between them, C is to the left, E is to the right. When you have 3 black keys, F is to the left, followed by G between the 1st and 2nd, A between the 2nd and 3rd, and B is to the right of 3 black keys. All right. We talked about clefs already. Music is written on the 5-line staff. Again, it can be above or below when it comes to ledger lines. There we go. I'm keeping up with us better now. At the beginning of every staff, you find a clef sign. We've heard that already. Some players read music using a treble clef. Notice how the treble clef curls around the 2nd line from the bottom, and that's just another way to indicate that that is G. Some players read music written on a bass clef. Notice how the bass clef has dots in the top, E and G in the top spaces. Okay. So down here, this is one of those really, pay attention to details types thing, okay? So it's giving you this bass clef, and it's asking you to match, to find ones over here that match. Using the bass clef as a model, circle all the correct bass clefs in the square, okay? I would normally give time in class to do this before I show you, but for time's sake here, the dots are too low, so it can't be that one. On this one, the bass clef's not sitting on the 4th line, it is sitting on the A, the 5th line. That doesn't work. This one, sure, I'm going to go ahead and circle it because it looks like the right size and everything is in the right place. The reason I say the right size is take a look here. That's obviously, it's big, too big. This one here is too small, although sometimes there are legitimate reasons to have a bass clef small, and that'll come another day. This one's sitting too low. It's sitting on the D line instead of the F line. This one pretty much matches up, okay? This one, again, is sitting too high. It's sitting on the A line just like one up here did. Okay, so, oh, whoops, I forgot. We're going to circle that. And then this one over here, again, looks the right size. It's sitting on the F, the dot's in the right place. Okay? All right. And then over here, using the given treble clef as a model, using that, there, if I move away, you see it better. Circle all the correct treble clefs in the square. Okay, notice the size, this one's a lot smaller, so no. Okay, again, size counts. This one looks fine. I'll go ahead and say it's all right. This one, the circle isn't around the 2nd line like here, it's around the B line, so nope. This one, again, the circle is around the E line. That wouldn't be right. This one here looks fine. That one there looks fine. This one here, again, is too low. This one here is too big. And this one's too high. Okay. Now, I gave this, and I always do, or I used to always do. It says here in what clef is your band music written. Okay, I know that not everybody is in band. Most of you, your choir music or your recorder music or guitar, we're all in treble. You could also call it the G clef. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next page. All right, so this is ledger lines. I've been mentioning these. Okay, because this booklet is stapled together, I don't think you need to rewrite your name, but if you feel the need, go right ahead. All right, so about ledger lines. When notes are placed above or below the staff, ledger lines are used to continue the pattern of lines and spaces. Middle C is placed on the first ledger line below the treble staff or above the bass clef staff. All right, so they're showing you here. Your bottom line, if you remember in bass clef, is G, as in Girls and Boys Do Fine, always G. Okay, you spell down. They skip to the space F, but there is a note F that can go below the bottom line. Then you have first ledger line down E. Below the first ledger line is D. 2 ledger lines down is C. And below 2 ledger lines is B. Okay, going up, this is middle C. And by the way, we know the top line of bass clef should be A. There is a note that exists in the space above the top line, that would be B, and then we have C. D is above the middle C ledger line. E is 2nd line above bass clef. F is above the 2nd line for bass clef. Okay. All right, treble clef, the one we're more familiar with. Okay, every girl boy is fine for the lines. So bottom line is E. Again, they skip the space D, but you can put notes there. And they go to the same middle C. The same middle C that we mark over here for bass clef above, we mark below for treble clef or G clef. Okay. Below the first ledger line down is B, 2nd ledger line down is A, and below the 2nd ledger line is G. Okay. First ledger line above treble clef is A, then B, then second ledger line up is C, and above that is D. Okay. So using that with other knowledge, we have some activities here. Let yourself go. That's a pun on let yourself go, but using the word ledger. By the way, I have seen some music books spell the word ledger with a G. That is okay too. And this one, it uses a D. All right, name these notes. Okay, it's the second line below. Now, if I forgot that, I still have something here that can help me back up at the top, right? Treble clef, treble clef. Second line down. There it is, A. All right. Below the first line down of treble clef is B. Above the first line above treble clef is B again. Obviously much higher B. It's 2 B's higher. And the second line above treble clef, well, here's treble clef, second line above, if I move out of the way you can see it better, is C. Name these notes. Now, check it out, we changed to bass clef, so we're going second ledger line below bass clef is C. The note below the first line below is D, right? This one's looking for the note above the line above. Remember, the line above is C, so it's D. And then 2 lines above bass clef, like over there, that's E. Okay. Oops. There we go. And then it says, for number 3, draw 3 C's all on different lines or spaces. And they don't mean like that. Okay, they want you to draw whole notes on C. So I actually started that. I looked out for you there. But that's C, all cows eat grass. Okay. Okay. You know, if you needed to, of course, you could go back up here to reference, right? Here's one of the other C's. That's really low C. And that's middle C. Okay. Number 4 is a treble clef activity. It says draw 3 B's, all on different lines or spaces. Again, you can use your material up here. Or you can remember that here's middle C, B below middle C, that's one of them. Middle line and top line. Okay. All right. Musical crossword. Okay. So we're using the examples to fill in words. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start with one across. This is bass clef. It's space above top line A, right? Girls and boys do fine always. The after A alphabetically is B. That's one across. Top line is A in bass clef. And this is below one ledger line below bass clef. If we forget all the other stuff, we can spell down. G is the bottom line, F space, E ledger line. This is below the E ledger line, so it's D. Bad. Okay. That takes care of that. Number 3, across. Okay, we're in treble clef. Always want to identify the clef first. Okay, it's above the top line F, as in every girl and boy does fine. F, G space is above. A is the first ledger line above treble clef. Okay. Again, if we forget that that's middle C, we can go to the bottom line. E, space down to D. The line below then is C, middle C. This is the fourth space, or the, oh, I'm sorry, there we go. Fourth line, or fourth space, spelling fourth letter of face, F-A-C-E. Okay, let's scratch that off. Number 5 across, 2 notes, okay, both treble clef. F-A, and this is below the bottom line E, just the space below, so it is D. Ad. It's only one D, so it's not addition, it's advertisement. Okay. Number 6 across. Okay, we use the keyboard. And I talked a little bit about this briefly. When you have 2 black keys, the note between is D. We have 3 black keys, between the second and third one is A. And of course you can get that from the other page too. And then this one up here is also between 2 black keys. There, one of my most important identities is being a dad. Okay. All right, number 8. Treble clef. Note in the space below first ledger line down. Well, if we forget that, E is bottom line, D is the space, C is first ledger line, so B is our note. F-A-C-E, face. Remember that about the spaces and treble clef. Bottom line, every, we'll just leave it alone. Buzzing bees, haven't seen any yet. Okay, number 10. Another two-letter word. Bass clef, though. Okay, it's above the top line. Great big dogs fight aardvarks. A. Space above A is B. Okay, it's the spaces, but it's not face. It's all cows eat grass. All cows eat. To be or not to be. The other way to spell B. Okay. 11. Another keyboard. Between the second and third black of the 3 black keys, so it's A, we mentioned that. Between the 2 black keys, we mentioned that being D before, and another one. So this time we're adding things up. Okay. And 12 across. Oh boy. Good note for flutes here. Let's see. Top line is F, space G, A, space B, C, space D, line E, and above line E is another F. Okay. Again, it's treble clef, it's a space, so F-A-C-E. This one's going to go down a bit, okay? Bottom line E, space D, middle C is the first line, B below that, A is the next line, G below that, F is the next line, E. Fee, something you pay. Okay? So that's all of our crosses in the crossword puzzle. And now we'll do the downs. Okay, so we can get that so you can see it pretty good. All right, so the first one, now I know we can get some of the letters from here, but you know, it's better for me to just go ahead and teach through this. So, oh my. Now, if you didn't know that this was 3 black keys and to the right of 3 black keys is B, you could also remember that these 2 black keys, D is between them, and then just spell down D, C, B, okay, which we've already got. Okay, to the right of 2 black keys is E, we've talked about that. Between the second and third black keys is A, and we have a bead, and of course we could figure that out too. Okay, so you're going to kind of get some freebies here. All right, 2 down. Let's practice spelling it up. F is the top line, G, A is the first ledger line, B, C is the second ledger line, so that's a D, and that's what our puzzle says. F-A-C-E. Okay. 2 ledger lines down, E, D, C, B, A, F, E, G, B, D, right? Ta-da. Okay. C, F, A. Well, like we're in treble clef again, huh? E, space below D, middle C is the first ledger, space below is B, A is the second ledger, and G. Anybody else feel like they've been in a cage? We have 7. Down is the next one. Again, we can spell down if we need to. That's D, C, B, A. and that's already filled in. First and second of 3 black keys, the white key is G, and to the right of 2 black keys we mentioned earlier is E, D of course, and hopefully we've only physically aged a little bit. Okay, number 8 down. We got bottom line G because we're in bass clef now. G, F, E, D, C, B, which is already there. All cows eat because it's a space. Third one is E. Top line is A in bass clef, B, C, D, E. And great big dogs fight. That's F, and it's already there. So beef is that one. What's for dinner? Okay, number 9. I have to move out of the way so you can see it. There it is, right down here. All right, bass clef again. Third space, all cows eat. And E's already there. Okay, that's a ledger line. It's above the ledger line up, so we can spell it up. A, B, C, D. And then all cows eat grass, that's G. And then the line above is E. Okay? All right. Well, these next few pages, we're talking a little bit about music history. Okay? So we'll go ahead and get some reading in. Antiquity. So we're talking about before even the Renaissance and medieval periods. I mean, a long time ago. Okay? So I'll read to you. The history of music begins with the history of humankind. It is unlikely that music was ever played purely for pleasure in ancient times. It always had a purpose or was played for a specific occasion. For example, the first musical instruments were probably used for communicating or signaling. Drums and animal horns would have been useful for these purposes. Gradually, as ancient civilizations evolved, the role of music also evolved. Music became an accompaniment for work, dance, or rituals of ceremony and religion. As with all forms of art, each ancient culture developed its own styles of music. So they talk first about Chinese music. Ancient Chinese music can be traced back at least 4,000 years. Much of it was played using a pentatonic or 5-note scale. It was often played on plucked string instruments like the qian, part of the zither family. And of course, I'm showing you that. There's a lot of instruments that resemble this, but this would be the first one that was known. Okay. Egyptian music. In ancient Egypt, music played a part in almost every aspect of life. Musicians, many of whom were women, were second in status only to royalty. The lute, lyre, and harp were popular instruments in Egypt. So we had a lute, not to be confused with flute. It's actually kind of a guitar type instrument. There's a lyre, again, kind of harp-like, although this is even more harp-like. Hebrew music. The Hebrew people associated music with religion. There are many references in the Old Testament, they're referring to the Bible here, to music, dancing, and musical instruments. The only ancient Hebrew instrument still used today in synagogues is shofar, or the ram's horn. Okay, so the brain buster. Musical instruments were first used for signaling and probably using only 1 or 2 notes. Write down 5 ways we use musical sound today for communication or signaling. Well, strangely enough, first thing that came to my mind is many schools have bells. Okay. To let you know that classes are changing. We obviously, for our recesses, ring a bell. So that's a signal for us. Okay. Another one is our phone beeps when we're in the classroom, when somebody's going to make an announcement, or, well, for that matter, when we're getting a phone call or getting a message. Okay. Another way of musical sound, well, I live in town, of course, but I hear church bells, starting the services, or sometimes even marking time. I hope someday to get my grandfather clock working so you can hear what that can sound like, but there's a big clock in London that does that. Oh, shame on me. I'm doing these out of order by number. Oh, another way. I'm hoping by now you probably have thought of several. But I'm going to say, too, I don't know, alarm clocks. Okay, some of us, there's just tones with that let us know, oh, it's time to wake up. Okay. One more page for this lesson. Okay, so some more here. Parts of the world that have had music forever. Greek music, our word music, comes from the Greek word musike. The most popular instruments of Greece were the guitar, Greek for lyre, again, but I wonder if guitar comes from that. The most popular, I already said that, Greek for lyre, and the aulos. Okay, there's brands of recorders called the aulos. Music was played at festivals and plays, and music contests took place at the Olympic Games. Okay, so that has gone on for a long time. Roman music. Roman music is based on the music of Greece. Given the warlike history of the Roman civilization, music was used mostly for military and entertainment purposes, as well as using drums. The Romans made the first brass trumpets and horns. And see, they've got a great big one here. Not unlike maybe the sousaphone today. Okay. History mystery. Match the first letter of each civilization with the terms listed below. Some letters will be used more than once. Sure they will. Okay, so shofar, you will probably remember that was Hebrew, still used today, the ram's horn. The qian, from Chinese. The musike, we just talked about with the Greek. Okay, oh, I kind of skipped that, but yeah, C for Chinese, E for Egyptian, H for Hebrew, G for Greek, R for Roman. Okay. The harp, I'm going to go ahead and look back just to remember myself. Yes, it was Egyptian. I thought so. Yes, I have taught out of these, but I don't always remember everything. I seldom use answer keys either. Brass trumpets and horns. Brass trumpets and horns. I am thinking Roman, yes. Just looking right at it. The lute, remember I was saying it's not to be confused with flute. That was in the Egyptian as well. The lyre, also Egyptian. Guitarra, Greek. Again, makes me think maybe where they got the word guitar. The pentatonic scale. It is under Chinese. A lot of well-known American folk music involves just a pentatonic 5-note scale. So, and the aulos, the recorder looking thing. Goodness, I guess I ought to show you what I'm filling in down here. And so that's Greek. Okay. I think that's good first lesson on this level of the workbook.